Well, National Senator M.Canavan was meant to be part of our political panel, but instead he gets to hang out with me alone.
That sounds a bit concerning.
That's
Patricia.
why I said it. I just wanted to mess with your mind.
Yeah.
But
It's all mind games.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing here. No, straight up question. I'm not interested in mind games. I'll just ask it as it is. Barnaby Joyce is really annoying your colleagues, isn't he?
Oh, look.
He is messing with their minds.
Maybe, I don't know. Look, I'm sad about the situation. He's a good mate of mine. There's no secret about that. I'd much prefer my mates to stay in a team. I'm fighting for the right things for our country. I'd prefer all our team to stay together. So it's disappointing. I've told him I don't think it's the right decision to step out, particularly at this crucial time. I mean, we are in the throes of trying to come up, in my view, with a better solution to our energy and climate problems in this country. The situation we got right now is not really working, so I kind of want him to be in there. But, he's made his decision for now, although it's not a final decision.
No, but it's not, and that's what I'm hearing from your colleagues, so I want to get some clarity from you. Yeah. Not just your colleagues, the leader has said it pretty clearly, he needs to make a call, doesn't he?
Well, look, I'd prefer to keep him, so I don't want to force...
So you're prepared to give him some time?
Sure.
Why?
Well, as I've said, I think he's one of the best, if not the best, retail politician in the country. And if you've got Reece Walsh on your football team, you don't force him out the door. You try and find a way to keep him. If that means you have to extend the contract negotiations for a few more rounds and there's a bit more uncertainty, you do it to keep Reece Walsh. I'm almost happy for him to take the time he's needed. As Barnaby has said today, we've had other members of our team step away for a little bit, not come to the room, and that's always sad. But in those other cases, they've come back and become very fruitful members of our team.
I have to labour this point. How long is a lead time for this contract negotiation?
Well, I don't know. I don't think there's a draft deadline in our game. I don't think so.
Like he's just sitting there.
So look, I'm not going to put a time on it.
I'm not. But should he be offered something? I mean, the Nationals leader is not offering him control.
It's hard to do that now, obviously, because there's only a limited number of spots in the starting lineup, if you like, to keep the sporting analogy going. But
someone should take a fall.
Well, I can't. I can't get rid of it. I'm a nobody, so I got nothing to offer him. But look, I've said I think it was regrettable that we didn't find opportunities to use the skills and experience of our former leaders. I think being a leader, being a Deputy Prime Minister in both Michael McCormack's case and Barnaby's case, they've got a lot of institutional knowledge we could use in the front of our team.
And if David Littleproud can't get him back in this contract negotiation, that's like your coach can't get you back in, if I'm going to labour this point again.
Yeah.
Should there be consequences for him? Does it have consequences for his leadership?
What I'm focused on now, as I was when I challenged for the leadership, I challenged David for leadership after the election, I was focused on delivering what I think is a better plan to save manufacturing jobs in this country, to improve the living standards of Australians, to make sure we are not expected to take a bigger share of the burden of reducing emissions. That's what I'm focused on. And I'd love to see that now. I'm very hopeful we'll get to that place, and in that event, I want David to succeed. I want the Nationals Party to succeed, because in my view, my opinion, if we succeed with a better plan, Australia will succeed too. So that's what I want.
OK. You've given a briefing, I believe, to your party room about how the net zero report is going. Have you got broad support? Because you also have a view about how it should land. Yeah,
I can't divulge what happens in party room. I need to respect the discussions we have among colleagues. There will be a time when we can and do discuss with the public about what those plans would be, but that's a matter for our room as a whole and the leader, not myself. But look, suffice to say, we've had very constructive discussions, and there is a great unity among us that something has to change. Now, I think that's pretty obvious now, even to blind Freddie, that the things we're doing right now on energy, on climate, are not a good deal for the Australian people. We've seen electricity and gas prices go up by 40% since we signed up to net zero. We were promised that they'd come down by a material way. We were promised massive amounts of jobs in critical minerals and hydrogen. Remember, they used to talk about hydrogen. All of that has disappeared. In fact, we've lost jobs in the nickel industry, which was meant to be a great white hope. So So if things aren't working well, and when things aren't working well, you should change direction.
Is a
Instead, the government's doubling
compromise
down.
something like getting to net zero by 2060? Is that something you'd live with, or do you just
look? One of the reasons I'm
you're just not into it.
You know, when I hear that, yeah, I think I've been transported to an advertising agency in the 1960s in Mad Men, right? Like, well, if net zero by 2050 is not working, let's try net zero by 2060.
So who's the Don Draper in your party?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's Barnaby Joyce, but you know, so that's just all marketing spin. I mean, okay, we don't want to do net zero by 2050, let's do it by 2060. How about we just make a decision that we think will be good for the Australian people? Not what we think is good for our jobs, but what is good for the jobs of everyday Australians. And that is at the core of the problem of decision-making in this place, in my experience. Too often the debate has been about how we, and even the commentary in these places, up here in the press gallery, how do we have a policy that maximises the number of jobs for politicians of a particular colour? I don't give too much of a stuff about that. I'm at the end of my tether with everything that's going on. And I'm in this place and I sacrifice time away from my family so that I can do something for the Australian people. Now, if that means taking a position that might put my job at risk, okay, I'm happy to take that risk because the ultimate goal is much more important.
So the other big bill, obviously, that's before the Parliament in the next couple of weeks is the environment laws.
Yep.
And do you think you should, as a party, just block that, or do you?
Well, look, I think in its current form there are a lot of concerns, and therefore I support the position that we've got at the moment, that we can't pass this. There are a lot of problems with our environmental laws, and we obviously established a process years ago to try and fix that. But what we've heard so far, and I don't believe the legislation's come out, I'm not following this as close as the other debate I'm involved with, but I don't think we've seen it in full. And what has dripped out, I do have major concerns about. A lot of introducing more uncertainty about terms like unacceptable impact. There is already a massive amount of uncertainty about terms like significant impact in the law. And so I think it's incumbent on the government to explain this. Some of these things were not in the recommendations of the Samuel Review, so it's a bit trite for the government to say, well, you set up this review, you need to accept everything.
Samuel himself
okay. But
reckons that, you know,
sure.
your side is not even asking him for a follow-up briefing.
Okay, well, I don't know about that. I know Graham, and good luck to Graham, but I don't think, you know, he's the be-all and end-all either on this. There's lots of different perspectives on this. I've certainly spoken to some businesses that have these concerns, and so in that environment I think it's right and proper to hold them up. Now, look, there's a lot of water to go under this bridge yet, and we're not going to pass it this week, nor should we. I hope not.
So let me put this to you. As somebody who does, you know, is concerned about some of these policy directions, and you've got that view on the record, aren't you then putting the government in a position where it's going to potentially do a deal with the Greens, which does, in your assessment, I'm not signing up to it for our viewers, but in your assessment, do more damage?
Yeah, look, I mean, it's always a balance.
Like, you want to get the best outcome.
Of course, but you also don't want to put yourself in a position that you'll just give the government a blank cheque because they're constantly threatening to do a deal with the Greens. I mean, yeah, the government is the government. I think it's incumbent on them then to show good faith in these negotiations.
Sure, but even on that premise, the government being the government, they've got 94 seats. They want a thumping.
They don't have 94 in the Senate.
But they did take this to actually 2 elections.
Sure.
Yeah.
They did, but I, as a senator, I'll maintain the right to the fact that the Senate does have a role of a review house, and particularly on detailed legislation like this, particularly when, yes, they take a commitment to the election, but I don't think people are ticking off on all the details of different terms in bills. There is a proper role for the Senate to review these things and make sure that the government makes its case properly.
I'm very glad to have spoken to you, even if it wasn't on a panel. We made
much
it
better, I thought.
Oh, yeah.
Labor Party.
You got yourself the talking stick for longer, which is what people go for. Thank you very much, Senator.
Thank you, Patricia.
And that's it for Afternoon Briefing for today. Stay with us.